Another of our mission-driven organization students, and a vocal child who will one day be like his father, giving a capstone presentation. Bill Kolling.
Thanks everyone for being here. So my capstone project was developing an alumni engagement strategy for Serve Vermont and our AmeriCorps alumni. And to explain a little bit more about the key players, and so you understand what the heck I'm talking about, the Corporation for National and Community Service is the federal agency that funds national service programs. AmeriCorps is the largest of those national service programs, and it engages volunteers in year-long terms of service, similar to a domestic Peace Corps type of experience. AmeriCorps is administered at the state level, and Serve Vermont is the Vermont Commission on National and Community Service. I'm the Executive Director of Serve Vermont, and we oversee AmeriCorps in Vermont. AmeriCorps Alums is the Alumni Association for individuals who have participated in AmeriCorps. You still with me on this? Another way to explain what I do is I take a federal level resource and bring it to the state. I take piles of paperwork and turn them into grassroots action, and I love every single minute of it. The story really begins when I myself was an AmeriCorps member back in 2007-2008, and I had a really transformative experience. While an AmeriCorps member, I learned how to grant write, manage projects, manage volunteers, and a bunch of other great things that have served me well in my career. But what I found when I was done was a pretty substantial void. You're part of a cohort model, much like at Marlboro, and then suddenly that's gone, and you feel an emptiness. And while I was a member of the National Alumni Association, I bounced around a little bit and never got involved with an AmeriCorps alumni chapter. Well, in 2013, I was thinking about my capstone. I was also appointed by Governor Peter Shumlin to oversee AmeriCorps in Vermont, and I said, perfect, here I am as an alum. Now I can actually do something about this. Let's make it my capstone. Let's develop something with client input, and then let's make it a plan that I can then execute now that I have a stage where I can do so. And so the first question I had was, do we know what AmeriCorps alums want? And there's a great answer. Yes, absolutely. We absolutely know what they want. They want service projects. Because here they are, they've done a year of service. Why wouldn't they want to continue through service? It's pretty logical. But how do we know that? And so I went to the AmeriCorps Alums National, and I said, do we know what alums want, and do we have data on that? Because I need some data if I'm going to do something. And their answers were, not really, we don't know what they want, and not yet. We don't have the data yet. But the great news was that they were working on this massive survey and collecting tons of quantitative data from alumni all over the country. So this is perfect. This is what I need. I can't possibly collect this much data. Vermont doesn't even have 5,000 AmeriCorps alums. So I'll rely on them for the quantitative data. Now I need some qualitative data, and I need that closer to home. How am I going to get that? Well, I thought about surveys, and I thought about focus groups, and I thought about my timeline. And then I was at the Vermont Food Bank Hunger Action Conference, and I was reintroduced to the World Cafe. For those of you who don't know, the World Cafe is a group process model whereby a large question is posed to a group, and small table discussions take place. The small table discussions include portions of the event where you can stand up, move to other tables, you can cross-pollinate ideas, and everybody is documenting this the whole time. They're writing ideas down on flip chart paper and post-it notes. And I said, this will be perfect, because at the end, you have an experience of collective intelligence, and I need to know what my AmeriCorps members want. So, when am I going to do this? Well, lucky for me, we have a conference every single May where we get all of our AmeriCorps members together, and it just so happens that I had a keynote speaker back out of a 1.5-hour slot just a couple weeks ahead of time. I said, wonderful, 1.5 hours, everybody's in one place, we have the small tables, let's do this. I need to come up with some questions I'm going to pose, and I don't want them to be leading questions, so I spent some time figuring out what do I want to ask. And I came up with 3 questions. How would you like to see Serve Vermont engage Vermont's AmeriCorps alums? How can you stay connected to AmeriCorps and life after AmeriCorps? And how could Serve Vermont or AmeriCorps Alums Vermont make serving as an AmeriCorps member in Vermont even better? So by asking these, I'm asking, what do you want me to do? What are you going to do proactively? Because this isn't all on me. And then was there any part of the experience that we could build upon or something we could offer you that you weren't offered as a member in life after AmeriCorps? The discussion was great. There was lots of chatter. There was lots of writing. There was lots of moving. And I ended up with 19 pages of responses. So I took all these and I cut them out into 172 relevant ideas. Now, these ideas were on flip chart paper, and it took me 3 hours to cut them all out individually. So that's a lesson learned. Stick to the Post-it notes. I then took these, and my staff and I started affinity grouping them, putting like ideas together on the wall of my office. And here's the beginnings. And as we progressed, the walls got a little more full. And that's what my office looks like to this day. I actually like it a lot. I have nothing else on the walls, as you can see, so I'm keeping it. Once we had all of these grouped, we started kind of categorizing ideas. And we had a newsletter theme. People want communications. We had a social networking theme. This is my favorite. Join my LinkedIn network and endorse my skills. And someone inserted the expletive out of my skills. So they really want endorsed. Facebook page. They want service projects. So that conventional wisdom that they want more service is at least partially true. They also want training and professional development, continued engagement. They also want reunions, networking, and job opportunities. And on the left is basically pure fun, camping trips, those sorts of things. And on the right is purely, I need a job, help me get a job right now. And in the middle we had all kinds of different ideas. There's also a food theme, people like food. And a whole bunch of doodles, which you're supposed to do in a World Cafe, but were not part of the 172 relevant responses. And when we were done, we clumped those clumps together even further. So you can see at the top, those were events. Then we have some networking. All of that green is communications of one kind or another. People really want us to hire them to be trainers and presenters and consultants. And then the bottom were some ideas people had for things we could do better while they're in service. But when we boiled these down even further, we found that a networking category had a bunch of responses. Training and professional development was strong, and again, service projects. So there's our conventional wisdom proven, but at a lesser level than perhaps we once thought. There's my AmeriCorps alumni engagement strategy. 3 points: networking, professional development, and service projects. All of those. So now I have my qualitative data. What about that quantitative data? Well, a week after this all happened, AmeriCorps alums released their survey. 88% of respondents said this was the most significant professional experience of their life. 72% want an impactful career. 64% gained valuable skills while an AmeriCorps member. And 64% work in government or nonprofits. But only 32% of these folks knew how to navigate life after AmeriCorps. So some of that networking, the job opportunities and training, perhaps we're onto something here. So what am I missing? I have this national quantitative and I have this local qualitative. I'm missing a connection. So I did an informal poll of our current AmeriCorps members, and we found that 25% of members will re-enroll in AmeriCorps in Vermont. 33% will stay involved where they serve, so whatever organization they were with. 10% end up employed where they serve, and 64% intend to stay in the social sector. Bam! 64% intend to stay in the social sector in Vermont, along with 64% of our national alumni staying in the public sector in one way or another. So this is great. I'm feeling some sense of validation at this point. Well, I told AmeriCorps alums what I had found, and they said, hey, could you come speak at our conference? And here I am. I haven't engaged anybody. I just have a plan to do so, and they're saying, come share what you know and tell us how to best engage alumni. So I did, but it felt a little weird because now I'm the expert and I had no idea that was the case at all. And while I was at this conference, I also had an opportunity to talk to chapter leaders of AmeriCorps alums chapters. And some of them have these huge lists of members. They're offering service project events and nobody's showing up, a couple of people. But I had an idea looking around in this group. And I said, follow me on this. Chapter leaders are generally recent alums. Recent alums are statistically 21 to 24 years old. And 21 to 24-year-olds generally don't have some of these things going on in life, such as, oh, I don't know, or maybe a robust career of some sort. So why are you only offering service projects? Don't only offer service projects. That's a piece of it, but how about these other things? And I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. And they said, this is good. We like this. Because we haven't asked, none of them had asked their members what they wanted, which is something we naturally learn in these programs, but it wasn't that obvious. And so I said, here's our strategy: networking, training, and service projects. 3 points, that simple. I said, here's what we're going to do with those. We're going to develop a database of AmeriCorps alums. And this was the point where I said, you all have these lists. I have nothing, but I know what I'm going to do with that list when I get it. We're going to build our communications: Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, newsletter, website. we're going to piggyback things we already do. I'm not going to have trainings just for AmeriCorps alums or networking events just for AmeriCorps alums, but if we're doing something already, we will add AmeriCorps alums into it. And we're going to remain agile. We're going to stay flexible. If something works, we'll do it again. If something doesn't work, we might never do it again. And they said, wow, this is really great. What's your next steps? What are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to get my board on board. And all along, this had been a major piece of my capstone. I said, I'm going to get a vote from my board to endorse this plan or strategy. And by the time I presented this just a couple weeks ago, my board just kind of took it and they said, yeah, okay, you have a lot of data backing what you found. It's pretty basic and we can see how that would work. Go ahead and do it. It was not as dramatic as I wanted it to be. We didn't even vote on it. They just said, yeah, go do that. Such is life. So, what were my key learnings in this? The obvious answer isn't always the best answer. The obvious answer in this case was an answer, but it wasn't the best answer. You might become the subject matter expert. Julie was trying to do that. I'm a little afraid of that. I thought I was going to catch up to where everybody already was. I didn't realize I was already there, and now I'm going to go ahead of everybody. That's scary to me in some ways. And sometimes the right answer isn't complicated at all. Still to this day, I wish I had a 15-page alumni engagement strategy that I could share with you all. But that would just sit on a shelf and I'd do nothing. Instead, I have a 3-point strategy that lives up here. It can be easily shared, easily broadcast, and we can easily capitalize upon opportunities to enact that strategy whenever they present themselves. So in the end, I'm left with a beautiful, simple 3-point strategy that I can execute and that I'm confident will serve us well headed into the future.